What's up? What's up? What's up? All right. I wanted to record this because I just made a post that was titled, I made a post about procrastination today. And then I just made a post. It doesn't matter if it's better. If I won't do it, it won't work. And it's interesting because I have been ultimately, where do I start here? There's so many things I want to say. Oh gosh. Well, I'll start off with this thing about procrastination. I made this post today. By the way, it's like super cold outside. I think it's like -19 wind chill. It's 1 degrees when I went and took a little drive here this morning, and so my office is in the basement. It's a little chilly, so that's why I'm here in my wife's office right now. She's out with the puppies, but I made this post that was also derived from this quote. The work you do while you procrastinate is probably the work you should be doing for the rest of your life. And a buddy of mine posted that. And, I'll read a little bit of what I wrote here. Many think that procrastination is unproductive. For example, I find scrolling through social media like Instagram or Facebook draining and numbing. This form of procrastinating is often depressing, and it's not what I'm meant to do with my life. I know that much. However, I also spend a lot of time doing things I'm passionate about and give me energy, researching, learning, and my favorite, coaching. And this, expressing myself. So I just have to make sure I don't spend too much time consuming without sharing or expressing myself and what I learn. Otherwise, I get content constipation. And well, that's not good. So the thing for me is that when it has come to online business and building something and using the internet to do that, I have found that there are a lot of things that need to quote unquote be done, but are very, for me personally, and this is a thing about, let me pull up this post for you real quick, because I haven't gotten on here in a while and I haven't posted much in the last, which is going to tie in here. I haven't posted much since like August. And that's a behavior. When I check my like Facebook memories, I can see that there are just this endless cycle of like, when it comes to online and sharing, there's these like random rhythms of like, I'll post a bunch and I get really intense and I'll be consistent. I think it's probably because I come up with like, all right, here's what I'm going to do. And then what I find is that I'll stop. And I'll bring up this brain scan here to share with you and kind of talk this through for a second, because I find it very, let's see here. There it is. So I find it very interesting. So I take this brain. I got a brain scan a couple years ago now. I think it was about a year ago. Actually, it's been just a year ago this month that I received them, actually. And what had happened is that I had, let's see, where am I at here? I want to make sure that I'm not super small. So, okay, good deal. So what had happened is that I felt like I was procrastinating more than I ever had in my whole life. I felt that I had been overthinking more than I had in my whole life. I came up with this whole thing way back in the day. I think it was when I was going to speak in Germany to this Alive in Berlin, and it was MIA, Massive Imperfect Action. And I had felt like when I looked at my life and I looked at the success that I had, that was one of the biggest things I did. I just took this inspired imperfect action and I did a lot more of that. And I cleaned up whatever quote unquote negative happened from a lack of thinking things through. I would clean those things up after the fact. But overall, this behavior of like, what I've even called light thought versus heavy thought. This idea that when I have an inspired thought, I act on it and do something with it, right? So like Tim Ferriss, when I got to work with him back in 2010, I got this inspired idea from reading a blog post, and it said, we need a refund because I'm not 21. And the guy said, email Charlie at the 4 Hour Body, or Tim said that. And so I thought, well, I'll just email Charlie at the 4 Hour Body. And I spent, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes just crafting the email, clicking send, and then going on with my life. And I honestly thought, well, probably not going to respond to me. Probably not much going to happen. But the thing was, by doing that, I had no attachment to what was going to happen. I wasn't sending this email and spending weeks and months, crafting it, thinking, "Ah, man, this my whole life, my whole business depends on whether or not I get this response." I didn't do that. And some of the greatest things I've had in my life have come from that way of operating, right? Like idea, thought, like right now, I was sending my coach a message and I was thinking this thing through, and that's where I came up with, this where'd it go? The other post that I made today that just said, it doesn't matter if it's better. If I won't do it, it won't work. And so I got on here and I thought, I was telling this excuse and this story of like, well, when I'm just kind of random and I'm unscripted and I'm unplanned, like it works great in private, but it doesn't seem to work as well in public because I'm all over the place right now and I haven't articulated my thoughts. And, I had this post. Is it still on there? Yeah. I had that ADHD post. So full transparency, I posted that multiple times in the past. The same picture, the same overall text, except for it was the raw, I spent an hour or two writing this thing. It was fairly long, if I'm being honest. And I just hit post because I know that when I look at my brain scan, the one on the right, the deactivated brain, when I edit these things, it feels mentally like crap. It's very difficult for me I can flow when I write. So when I'm writing, it flows out of me. But then when I click when I get done, if I've got to go refine it and edit it, it deactivates my brain. And so therefore it's like there's an invisible brick wall and it makes it very difficult for me to want to go through and refine that. And at times it's in the refinement and clarification of that message that will make it more consumable by people, right? And so like right now, people, there's a live interaction here. There's a live energy. It's truly live. It's me. It's January 15th, 1:39 p.m. This isn't some streamed recording or anything else. But what happens is that when this isn't live, I have a lot of proof that it doesn't seem to get reconsumed. There's something about when people are live with me, it works really well. But when they're not, it doesn't seem to do as well. Even when I look at a lot of my clients, especially people from the past, and I ask them, they'll be like, "Oh, I wouldn't be where I am without you." Well, what did I do? And how did it help? And all these things. Very few of them can ever articulate what I actually said or what I actually did that helped them. But they know how I made them feel, and they know that feeling led them to feeling better, and that feeling led them to taking actions, and those actions that they weren't taking led them to get results that they weren't getting. And as a byproduct, it made a big impact on their life, right? And so this idea that this post that I made that got a ton of engagement, I posted it multiple times in multiple groups with little to no engagement whatsoever. So now there's ChatGPT. This particular post that's on the screen, I refined. So it wasn't, I told ChatGPT to write me some random ass post. It was that I had something written that had proven to not really get any engagement. So I had ChatGPT, I brainstormed with it and had it refine that to make it shorter and make it more maybe consumable. So then what did I do? I post that and it ends up with like 250 likes and it ends up with 100 and something comments. And I'm like, oh, wow. So what do I do in creating my mind? Oh, well, when you're more refined, when you're more, you edit it and you make it easier to understand and consume, more people can potentially be impacted. Now, here's the problem with that. That's wonderful. But where this other quote comes up, it doesn't matter if it's better. If I won't do it, it won't work. The problem over and over and over and over and over again in my career with like online business particularly is that there are an enormous amount of things that deactivate my brain. And this is because of the way my brain's wired, ADHD. I went and got bloody scans so I could better help myself and better help my clients because I felt like there was stuff being said that didn't make any flippant sense to me because I'm like, I love spicy food, but spicy food doesn't love me. So there are things that I am competent and capable and able to do that it's not a matter of like lacking skills or lacking talent or lacking motivation or drive. It's literally that when I do the thing that I do, it doesn't feel good. And it's not just like, oh, there's people that attack people for that kind of like, ignore your feelings. It's not about that. I become not fun to be around if I spend too much time doing the brain deactivation activities. And when I study the most successful, specifically financially entrepreneurs, who when I identify things of similar thought processes and ways they're wired, they almost all have help. Whether it's a significant other, it's a business partner, it doesn't matter who, but somebody else is a complement to their deficits. When I look at my own success in my past, when I thrived and when I barely survived, it's been when I've been with the right people, not when I've been alone. The problem is at school, ultimately, especially if you go through college, you've got what? Start school when you're when you're 5, and then you go for upwards of 15 to 20 years in school. And then what happens? That whole time, if I'm great at math, and Devon, my man there, see, now I'm getting back in the groove. God dang, I got to go back to everything I'm saying here, but it's definitely warm in here. But if I lost my train of thought. What did it say? I was being funny there. Oh, the math. So if I'm not good at math, but Devon is great at math, and I'm in school, preschool all the way through college, right? If I'm bad at math, Devon's great at math, and I want Devon to do my math homework, I will get in trouble if we get caught. He will get in trouble if we get caught, right? So a trait that is the ultimate for one to have success potentially in business is something that we have for 15 to 20 years slammed into our brains habitually, that you got to do it. If you want it done right, you do it yourself. If you got to learn how to do it. If you're bad at it, you got to learn how to do it. And the problem is that what I found in studying the brain and psychology and all these different things to understand myself and why I do certain things, why I don't do certain things, why I procrastinate, why I don't procrastinate, looking at procrastination like I did today through a different lens. This idea that sometimes, if you didn't hear that quote earlier, if you're on here, the work you do while you procrastinate is probably the work you should be doing for the rest of your life. And no, I don't mean doom scrolling on Facebook or Instagram, right? But I love, in the last few years, I've probably clicked on, I did it about 9 months ago, so now it's probably significantly more than that. I have clicked on YouTube specifically, somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000 clips in the last probably year to year and a half. And I've probably watched in its entirety, I don't know, 500 maybe? Like I'm talking anywhere from 10 minutes to 2 hour long videos. But then there's been a bunch that I just kind of click around. I watch for 5 minutes. I watch for 5 seconds. But I've consumed an extraordinary amount. That's just in the last year and a half. That's not the last 18 years. And so there's so much whirling around in here in my brain of you should do this and you shouldn't do this and you should do this and you should do that. When it comes to coaching my clients and working with the people I work with, it's a superpower. I can relate. Most of the people I've worked with, I've consumed, worked with, or read just about anything anybody can throw at me in regards to a certain sector where people tend to know of those people. And what I can tend to do is take somebody who's seen things very literally, very black and white, very this or that, either or, and help them shift their perspective, help see it in a different light. And so it's a superpower. But with my own stuff at times, it's like the greatest brain surgeon can't do his own brain surgery. The tattoo artist can't tattoo their back. Right. So there's aspects of things that, although I have learned how to do it really well for others, and there's aspects I do really well for myself, I need my own medication, if you will, and not a literal, medication. I don't take any pills or anything, but like what I give to others in the form of coaching and support, I need to receive, because there are things I can do myself, but there's blind spots I have, which I'm great at helping others with, that I still have. And so what I found here with this quote, it doesn't matter if it's better. If I don't do it, it won't work. So I had this thing that my old behavior when I would write things is that I would not edit them because I knew that it felt like shit to edit. And so then what happened? If I went to edit things, these things would never get posted, right? They'd never get shared. Why? Because I wouldn't edit them. So then over time, I felt like I became a better writer. But then what happened is that I felt like I was missing out on the impact that it could have if these things got refined. So then it's like, well, do you get help? Do you have somebody help you do that? Do you pay them? Do you find different people? Because I can't seem to overcome the fact that it just doesn't, like, my brain just deactivates when I do it. So then if I'm going to have that thing done and get the impact out of it, somebody's got to do it, right? So then even like playing with ChatGPT, well, it's not perfect. The one time I did the ADHD post that took off that's on the screen, I did it a few times and click post. Like, I wrote the post a while back. I ddidn't do anything. Then I went back to it, revisited it, and sat with it with ChatGPT, and I got something pretty quickly. But this one I did today, this procrastination post, I was probably done with the post and would have clicked post within 40 minutes. I spent another almost 4 hours attempting to get something that I felt would be good. And then when I got done, I was just frustrated. I'm like, because here's what happens. The more time you spend on something, the higher your expectation is of what you need to get out of doing that thing, especially if it's something you wouldn't have done otherwise, right? So when I sent the Tim Ferriss thing, if nothing happens from it, I don't care. I only spent 20, 30 minutes writing the email. Whereas I tried to partner with this guy, Parker Walbeck, a full-time filmmaker, a few years ago. And I remember being with my buddy. I spent probably 2 or 3 days crafting an email to this guy. I spent a good year trying to build rapport and trust and all these things with this guy to make something happen. And in the end, like, there was good that came out of it, but I had an easier time getting to work with Tim Ferriss and Tony Robbins than I did him. And I spent less effort and less energy trying to do something with them. And so what I found is the more time I spend doing something, the more time you potentially spend on something that you wouldn't have otherwise done, and you want an outcome. That's why you're spending so much time. If you don't love that journey, if you don't love that process, and you're doing something you wouldn't otherwise do, then the longer you spend on it, if you don't get the expected result, the more disappointment that you feel. And the problem is that creates ultimately an imprint on our brain. And the more you do those things and they don't work out, the less likely you are to do them. Because that's what happened to me. I went from the MIA guy, massive imperfect action, to MOA, massively overthinking all my actions. And so the reality is, for me, is that I had all these things imprint on me from taking all these actions, having deaths in my life with different people, like all these kind of, traumatic experiences that happened that made me go, oh, hold on. Now, not consciously. A lot of this is happening unconsciously. So I don't actively, we have a lot of default reactions to things, right? And our defaults won't change until we consciously become aware of them and then intentionally do things to observe them and change them on a daily basis with practice. And for a lot of people, they have no idea what the heck's going on. And so these default reactions just happen, and we end up in this life cycle that is either working for you or it's sure the hell working against you. And for me, in the last few years, there had been a lot working against me, right? Because when it comes to content creation, I mean, look, there's a million things being fed at people. And I don't know how many of you have seen any YouTubers. Are there any YouTubers? Anybody in the comments has paid attention to a YouTuber that they've had that in the last 6 to 12 months has either quit or rearranged their whole business or downsized or something? I made a screenshot. Let me see if I can pull this open for a second. See if I can pull this. See if I can share this for a second. Screen, window. Let's see what this does. Okay. Well, I don't think you can, they're not showing up big, but basically, actually, you know what I can do? Hold on. Stop, share, present, share screen, share, entire screen. Okay, let's just do this for a second. So basically, if we go over here, these are all these things where every YouTuber is quitting. After 10 years, it's time to stop making videos. Why I'm quitting YouTube. Huge YouTubers are quitting. I'm quitting YouTube permanently. I quit YouTube. Why are so many quitting YouTube? I'm quitting YouTube. Quitting my YouTube. My job for YouTube sucked. Here's why. This guy quit YouTube. Full explanation. He's been doing it for a long time. Why I quit YouTube. Why I'm quitting YouTube. This is from my last video. I'm quitting YouTube. Announcement. Why I'm quitting YouTube. Why I quit YouTube. I'm quitting YouTube. How quitting YouTube changed his life. Matt on leaving. Yes theory. Casey Neistat, why he quit YouTube, what he's doing now, why I'm on my own again. This particular guy is very interesting because he's going to continue doing it. He's over 1 million subscribers, but he's fired all his employees. I think he said he was at 10 or 15 at one point in time. Peter McKinnon, knowing when to quit. This guy, Ali Abdal's got a few million subscribers. He has an interesting viewpoint on this. Goodbye, Internet. I mean, it's so fascinating to me to observe all these people, because that's why I'm working with people, because I realize that what I want for people is for them to get up and do what they love. And by and large, what's interesting in the last few years is I have shown up and done what I love. I won't necessarily get into right now, but I've done enough things to be able to survive in the last few years. And I love where I live. I love time with my wife. I love time with my puppies. We watch shows. I go for walks. I get time to think. I have a lot of freedom, which is what I always wanted. I get to coach clients every single day. I'm always learning new things. Like, there's a lot of pros. There's in fact, outside of income and what I would consider potentially impact, depending on if you take the impact of the individuals versus impact of people I may never even connect with, impact of individuals is huge. Absolutely huge. The people I get to work with privately are making what I would call fun money instead of misery money. They're far happier than they were before interacting. So there's so much that's so good. But when it's come to doing what I'm doing right here, I've held back. And I read through these old posts and these things, and I really analyze that. And I think it's because ultimately, and back one more time, it doesn't matter if it's better. If I don't do it, it won't work. So what I find for me is that although I may have proof, because I don't know if I said that earlier, but when I posted this ADHD post I had on the screen for a while, when I got it refined, it got a lot more engagement, right? So then what's my brain say? Oh, well, if you refine things, right, it'll do better than if you don't. So one could argue that I would get better engagement if I could refine my edits, refine my videos, right? Rather than just getting on here randomly like this and just kind of going on and on and on about different things and off on little tangents, something that may be harder for somebody to consume outside of the live or after the fact, because like, I don't know, is this for me? Will this help? It's all over the place, right? But here's the thing. If I was given all the money in the world, this is what I do. I would not refine videos and spend time, hours and hours refining edits and refining written posts and refining videos. And because I don't consider myself a content creator. I don't like making videos, right? I don't like editing. I don't consider myself a writer. And outside of the times we're getting something out of my head and onto the computer, like, that's as far of a writer that I become from time to time. So I can have proof that if I refine my post, they may get better engagement because they're easier to understand. But the reality is, if I won't post regularly and I just do this better way for a few weeks, but then stop for a few years, what good did it really do? Anybody. Because I guarantee I'll make more impact if I posted something almost every day, which, I mean, some may think I'm crazy. It's the first time sharing this, I think, publicly. Go to your album on your phone if you're on an iPhone. I have in my recents 96,585 things in there. Basically, the two biggest things are live photos, just regular photos, 32,643, and I have 40,620 screenshots. There's a lot clicking in here. I have made in my notes on my computer, I have 2,439. I have probably made 400 or 500 of those in the last 2 months. And so the thing is, I don't have a shortage of things that I could post on the internet or get online and do something like this. But the more time I spend doing it in a way that I want to get a particular result, but it's a way that I would never do if I didn't like want a result, like money or something out of it, and it deactivates me, then what's the likelihood I show up and do that week after week, month after month, year after year? Very low. Because like today, if I spend 4 hours screwing around with that post when I would have likely just written it and, posted it in 45 minutes, that extra 3 hours, then I'm feeling like crap at doing it. If something doesn't happen, if there's not a lot of engagement on that, because I didn't do it with anybody either, I did it by myself, and I spent an extra 3 hours doing something I wouldn't have done if I didn't want to make sure more people read it. And then if they don't, guess what happens? My brain goes, well, that was a flipping waste of time. Now, somebody might have read it. Somebody might have been impacted. But if I didn't know, my brain says that was a waste of time because you could have been done in 45 minutes. Instead, you spent 4 hours and then nobody cared anyways. So then the extra stuff didn't really matter. When, for me, I could post 100 things in 100 days and have 2/3 of them probably not do that well and have a few do well. But the other ones that aren't doing well still get seen by someone and still make them. And I have a higher probability of good things happening from that behavior from Michael Gebben than I do the other behavior, because that I can likely do over and over and over again if I just don't care what happens with it, right? But like right now, a lot of people are saying, people on YouTube, the OG way is coming back and it's raw and authentic and yada, yada, yada. And I've heard multiple people say that replace algorithm with audience. When we say the algorithm, it doesn't favor me, doesn't like me, doesn't whatever, you can replace it with the audience doesn't like you, doesn't favor you, or whatever. Because there is some truth to that, right? There are people that have super refined, well-edited videos that do really well. There's other people who have super refined, super well-edited videos that don't do well. There are people who are on YouTube that you can look and they have the most unstructured, raw, random-ass videos like I'm recording right now, and they do really well. And then there's people who have raw, unstructured videos that are really random and don't do well. So the problem is, it's not about whether it being refined or not refined. It's not about whether, it being structured or unstructured. It's not about being polished or unpolished. That, what I'm finding in my own proof of my own life, because thank God, I guess in a lot of levels, I have had a lot of success I can anchor onto, because otherwise what I've had to work through would be interesting. And I think it's why a lot of people give up and get depressed and get demotivated. I mean, on certain levels, professionally, like I knew that I was living a life that I loved, but I knew it wasn't making me the money, nor was I making the impact. Because ultimately there is a correlation. If you're putting out stuff, and I haven't put out that much in the last 2 years in the grand scheme of things. I have little pockets of doing something for like a few weeks or maybe a few months, and then I stop. And so I do believe that when you're doing something really well, like you'll get rewarded for that. As long as you're clear about what you offer, which was part of my thing in and of itself as well. I wasn't clear about what I was offering or how I was offering it or, any of those things. But at the same time, it's like losing weight. If I have the best method for losing weight, the fastest method for losing weight, and it's going to take 3 months to lose 100 pounds. And it's the best, quickest, fastest method there is. It's going to take 3 months. Versus a really kind of not so great, slower, not the fastest method, and it's going to take a year, right? What happens to so many people is we want the fastest, greatest, best way to do it. So most would probably prefer that if they have an option to do it in 3 months versus a year, they'd probably take the 3 months. I know I would. I'd take the 3 months all day, every day. If you can get what you want in life faster, would you take the faster or the slower route? Some may say slower. For me, I know I'd love to have it faster. Most people would love to have their six-pack abs and their great body that they want or the money that they want today, right? Yesterday. You'd rather have that 2 years ago, 5 years ago. But here's what happens, for me at least. If I take the 3-month route and the way I'm going about it, this is back to that quote. It doesn't matter if it's better. If I don't do it, it won't work. Right? So the problem is that if I go and do the faster route, but it's going to take 3 months to get the result. It's going to take 3 months. And I do this faster, better, great, magnificent, magical method for 3 weeks. And then I stop. And I don't do anything. I don't do the slow or the good for 2 years. Well, guess what happened? you didn't get the result you wanted. And another year passed beyond the one that you may have been able to do that was slower, but you would have had the result. And so what I'm recognizing is there may be better ways to do something, but if you won't do it, it doesn't matter. And that's what I'm finding. I know what I'm willing, after all the stops and starts and living in extremes. I've been the extreme action taker where I probably ignored every single soul on planet Earth to achieve what I achieved. I've gone to the other extreme where I've moved in absolute slow motion. I'm moving as slow as a person can possibly move. I'm analyzing every move that I'm going to make, every way that I'm going to make it, everything that I'm going to do. And I've done that. I've lived at those polars and a little bit of teetering as I'm transitioning through the middle of that. And that's what I've observed, is that if I won't do it consistently, and I don't mean you can be inconsistently consistent. You can do something for a few days, drop off for a few days, and come back on. The problem is you don't need to be like, I'm going to do this 7 days a week. And then as soon as you break the cycle and you do it for like 14 straight days, and then on the 15th day, you don't do it. And you're like, oh, well, I guess I should quit, right? That's an extreme all or nothing, literal, like, mindset. Very scarcity minded. I got to commit to doing, every day of the week for this thing. And then if you don't do it, you're defeated. And then you quit, right? Versus like, okay, let's get back on it, right? Like I try to go on a walk, try to basically get at least 5,000 steps a day, get about 5 to 10 minutes on my stationary bike, do a handful of push-ups and some curls. I didn't do them for 3 days. Okay. I did them today, right? I don't give that a meaning that I'm bad or wrong or this or that anymore. I just do it inconsistently consistent. When I was studying like Joe Rogan and Tim Ferriss back in the day, I was trying to go, what's their pattern? People want to know, is it the length of the podcast? Is it the guests that they have on? Is it where they post? Is it how they post? Is it when they post? Is it what software they're using when they post? You can go down a mile long of any successful person that you see and psychoanalyze what in the hell that they're doing so that you think that you can reverse engineer for you, emulating that step-by-step framework to get to the outcome that they got to. And what I found is that shit ain't possible. It don't work that way. Where I live, who I know, who my parents were, who I'm married to, who I'm friends with, who I talk to, what I consume, what I interact, how I show up, how I look, my glasses, my face, my shave, my shirt, all of it goes into the scenario, everything. So you can emulate certain things, but you can't reproduce the exact same result as somebody else by just doing the exact same thing they did. And this is what this one guy was saying with the YouTube thing. Everybody going, oh, now everybody's going to have an excuse to not have to edit videos and just do these kind of raw and scripted things. And this guy's like, yeah, that's fantastic. It'll be like anything else. People jump on the trend, right? That guy who did that just said, fuck it, I'm doing my own thing, right? Screw it. I'm doing my own thing. I don't give a shit what anybody else is doing. This is what I'm going to do. And they'd be like, oh, man, he's raw and he's authentic and he's doing this stuff and it's so great, right? It's so great. Oh, my God. That's what I'm going to do. But then all these nuances. I mean, that's the other. Think about this guy. This Sam Sulek guy is who I'm talking about on YouTube that people are all examining now, right? Is that he's like a specimen in and of itself. He's like a monster. He's huge, right? And so there's so many little unique things. Now, again, what's this boil back to you? You got to keep experimenting. You got to keep testing. You got to keep trying. And then when you find things that work, ultimately, I've done stuff like this. That was part of my thing. Just get on here, hit the button. You know what I thought before I clicked live on this? Go down to my perfect setup. I got fancy lighting. I got my microphone set up. I got all this stuff all super nice. And it's got my motivational things behind me. I got to go do, I thought, no. Get on, click the button. Don't overthink it and do it. Right? Because there's the thing. I want to make an impact on people that are never going to work with me privately or talk to me privately or anything else. We can't do that if all you do is do things in private, right? Here's the thing. I wrote this post too that I love. Let me pull this up for you. Where's it at? How we doing? Anybody on here? There's like 6 people. Leave a comment. Like 6 of you. Are you enjoying this? God dang it. I live for feedback. One of my biggest blessings and biggest curse, needing feedback. Let's see here. Where's it at? Here it is. So this post, it says, now this is March 17th, 2023, right? Almost a year ago. My perspective on this picture as it relates to your art, photography, videography, design, speaking, coaching, writing, etc., and sharing it with the world. You can chisel away in private for years until you think your art is perfect or ready, so you will receive less criticism, which you will still end up being criticized by someone, or you can share your journey and art along the way, imperfections and all. Neither is right or wrong. You have to figure out when it works for you to share and when it doesn't. I have done a lot of inner work around this, but the more I choose to share my work imperfectly in public, the lighter I feel, the more fun I have. Plus, everyone gets to learn with me along the way rather than someday. I've been sharing a lot lately, right? And some love it and some loathe it. Some are confused by it and some gain clarity from it. Some are grateful for it and some don't care. You can go too slow and people will say you should go faster. You can go too fast and people will say you should go slower. You can share too much and people will say share less. You can share very little and people will say share more. Someone will always have their opinion. I say, obviously I broke this, I will continue to share regardless because I know it makes a difference and I have fun doing it. Tuning up hearts and minds one at a time so dreams don't die in hearts, heads, and hard drives. Keep rocking and rolling and I'll keep sharing and shining. I hope you will too. Right? So super powerful. But the reality is, oh my God, who is that? Put your name. I can't see who you are. I see a pattern, Lava. Good stuff today. Yeah. There we go. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly so fascinating. I don't know who that person is. If you can put your name, because I'm in StreamYard right now, so I have no idea who Facebook user is who said, been following you since Create Days. I see a pattern, laugh out loud, bro. But good stuff today. Yeah. This is what I'm talking about. It's easier. And it's interesting. There are more people who don't know who I am, who will be easier to do business with or to follow potentially than people who know me. Because there's some people who don't care, right? And who absolutely trust that, oh, hey, okay, yeah, I know, okay, I could see your name there. But yeah, so somebody like Deborah has followed me since 2012 when I had a business called Create Insights, right? I had Create Insights. I had my video production company. I had Expert Interrogations. I had Jump Starters. I had handcrafted business films. I had a pseudo form of employment from a couple companies. Tried to work with full-time filmmaker. I had all these different things that I was testing. That's only ones that semi made it past the ideation phase in my brain. But there's a lot of things I could get into, whereas a lot of it through the years was a lack of self-worth and self-esteem. So always believing that others were smarter, wiser, better than me. And that's also what I've learned about a lot of the support and things that I have received through the years as well. And one of the biggest differences in a lot of the coaching that I do is that I think people are drowning in information. I'm so grateful I started my company when I did, because there wasn't all there is today to kind of distract people. Because the thing is, this paralysis by analysis that's causing people, I mean, every day you can get on the internet and people are telling you with absolute conviction and certainty that they have the right way to do things, right? And they've figured out the way. And one of the things that I've found is that I have to watch using absolutes. Never, always, this is the way, et cetera, because if there's one thing I know to be true is that there are literally tens of thousands of ways to do something. And back to that quote, it doesn't matter if it's better. If I don't do it, it won't work, right? And so if you won't do the thing that's supposedly better, it doesn't matter how much more money it can make you, how much faster it could get the result that you want. If you won't do it and do it long enough, and who knows what long enough really means. I know that some of the biggest results I've gotten in business came after 5 and 10 years, right? The compound, the compounding of everything that happened, right? And so many times, all people know, like maybe Deb here, there might be some people who see me, I like this guy, but man, I can't trust him for a tenfold pull. Not because I'm lying, not because I'm manipulative or deceitful, but there's going to be people who follow me for that long who may go, yeah, it's cool when he comes along. I'll take it for what it can be, but this guy comes and goes and comes and goes. He blows with the wind, right? And so to do business with somebody who just blows in the wind and you never know whether they're coming and going, that's hard sometimes, right? Who do I trust the most? Who do we trust the most? Do you tend, I mean, some may say they don't trust Amazon, but that's for maybe all different reasons. But the reality is, if you found a product on Amazon or some sketchy website that what looks like the same thing, but you've never heard of it, who are you more likely to give money to? The person who's the company that you absolutely know that has your back and maybe you've purchased from many times in the past, and when you return things, they take care of you and all this stuff, or like, oh, I can save $40 over here, but I've never heard of this company, so I don't know what the hell is going to happen, right? And so then the problem is that you, a lot of us have to get past that, right? We have to get past that. They've never heard of you. They don't trust you, et cetera, phase. But that comes at just continuing to show up when maybe you're not getting that much praise, or you're not getting that much results, or you're not making that much money. You have to continue to show up. You know, there's people in video production right now. I work a million times less and make probably 10 times more money than some people who are literally busting their butt, you know, all day, every day. You know, I did some video jobs last year that, you know, I closed in a 5-minute phone call. I closed over email. In the beginning of my career, and like I closed 100% of the jobs that I did last year. Now, I could go around selling a course to people, videographers, saying close 100% of your jobs. Yeah, you know how I did that? Not having that many jobs to close. Number one, because I've pretty much pseudo destroyed my entire thing there, because that's not really necessarily what I want to do anymore. But number two, so I don't get that many leads. But the people who do call me, they want me. That's it. Unless my price is way off, they want me. And they want me. The people I have who want me will pay, you know, $5,000+ typically for the project, right? Versus the 18-year-old kid who started his company could talk to 40 people and book 5 jobs, right? I had a lot more volume, but I had people who didn't care who I was, they were contacting 7 other people. They didn't want Michael Gebben. They wanted a video, and they wanted the cheapest video, right? But once I built a brand and a reputation, then it became that much easier, right? But to build the brand and reputation, you have to stick around doing something for more than a few days or a few weeks. And the problem with the internet is people are so stuck and confused about what to do and what ways to do it that they don't do anything. And that's really, from an action standpoint, publicly and marketing and content, that's what happened to me in, you know, my coaching business, is that I basically got paralyzed. I know all the ways that I can do it. I know ways that work. I know ways that could work for me. I know better ways than other ways. But it's finding the way that works for me. One size fits all versus what size fits you. That's what I'm doing with all my clients all the time. It's not one size fits all. There's a lot of one size fits all advice and content and courses and programs that generalize things and make it seem like, because they want you to buy, that it will work for you. And all you need is a pulse and a computer. If you got those 2 things and you give them money, it'll spit money out the other end. And I don't know about you. I mean, I hate to say it, but I've done that more than once. I've fallen into this like, yes, because they're so convincing, right? But it's the same thing that happened to me in video production. Just thank God I had enough momentum that gave me enough proof that had me go, this is what works for me and this is what doesn't. Versus at times seeking approval for people. What I didn't need and what you might not need right now, you don't need approval. You don't need more information about things. Most people today, like, if you're lacking information, you just live under a rock, right? You either ain't seeking it out at all, or, you know, you don't get on the internet ever, right? Because free, cheap, and expensive, the information is in abundance everywhere. I know I'm not lacking info. What I'm lacking is the ability at times to make decisions, to take actions like I used to way back in the day. You know why? They were easier to make decisions sometimes. I didn't have any information. I had very little information, and it felt like there was only a couple ways to do it, so I just did it, right? And I didn't have traumas and all these things that happened that also were like what I call stove moments. So stove moments are when something happens, like you touch the stove and your brain goes, don't do that again. You know, some people don't learn very quick. Some people take a lot, some people learn pretty fast. And so some people have had things happen to them that their subconscious says, don't do that again. And then what happens is you get stuck because not that you're consciously thinking all the time about what could go wrong or what might not work, but your subconscious says, you've done this and 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 this didn't work. So what are you going to do? Right? And so what I found is I have to be able to process those things and retell my subconscious what went on with that thing. If you allow your brain to run on autopilot and default, if you don't like the life you have right now, it'll be hard pressed that outside of some, what they would call in storytelling, an inciting incident, meaning if you have a job you hate and you've been thinking about all the ways you can get out of it and you're still there and you've been thinking that way for 5 years, unless they fire you, the probability is really high that that's going to be there for another 5 years. Because what I found is that we run on autopilot. And that autopilot is working for us or against us. And you have to consciously, intentionally change the autopilot. But the problem is, even when you get epiphanies from calls like this, or you go to a seminar, or you read a book, or you watch a video, or you even receive some coaching, this is what I found in my coaching and now being able to work with people for extended periods of time, beyond like my old just kind of jump starts, is that people can get epiphanies and ahas in a moment. But if you have never heard me talk about the backwards bike is this bike that this guy did. It's got like 20 million views on YouTube. And basically the bike operates 100, like I'm going to tell you right now, imagine I'm starting right now. The bike is a normal bike like every other bike, except for when you go left, it goes right, and you go right, it goes left. Otherwise, once it's riding, it rides like a normal bike. That's all you need to know. I probably said that in 10 seconds or less. You don't need a PhD. You don't need a degree. You don't need a manual. You don't need anything. You just need to know that. And this guy would go around offering $250 to people who could ride 10 feet, and not a single soul could do it. His son was 6 years old, been riding a bike for 3 years. He was able to practice riding that bike over the course of 2 or 3 weeks and could ride the bike. The dad, who was in his 40s, took 9 months. So what does that tell you? And no amount of watching videos, watching content, learning, thinking, analyzing, or visualizing by itself will help you get on that bike and be able to immediately ride it. So how many things in life are we trying to get better at? We're missing one part of the equation, right? Some people are the greatest. I heard this with Matthew Curry. I don't know. Somebody who's into basketball know better. Matthew Curry or something like that. I heard this video the other day about this guy's just like the ultimate free throw maker. But for the last, 10 or 15 years, he's been throwing 500 free throws a day, every day, by and large. His body, muscle memory. Just he knows exactly what to do over and over and over and over again, plus the visualization. But just visualizing without any practical action is almost useless. It doesn't matter how much you watch the videos on that bike, learn how the bike works, visualize, all these things. When you get on that bike, you're going to still not be able to ride the bike. And then you're going to have to fall off that damn thing week after week after week after week after week until your brain goes, oh, this is what this thing does, right? And so there are things that you have right now that's what's happening. You know what to do. You know how to do it. You have everything you need to do it, but there's this invisible brick wall that's up and you're not doing it. You're not lacking another how-to. You're either lacking a who or you. That's it. Either a who can do it for you. So you're in somehow, some way, somebody else is doing it for you. And if it's going to be you, then you're going to have to do the new behavior over and over and over again, whilst potentially not getting a result, whilst always falling back into the old pattern. Here's what I've learned. Mindset work, all that kind of inner work. There is no ending. There is no destination. There is no arrival. It truly is. And I used to think that, well, if I got to continue to work with somebody, it just simply means that I'm bad at what I do. That's literally how I connected my coaching, because I wanted to get somebody a result and move on, right? I wanted to change their life in an instant. I wanted to change their life in an hour. And although from an intellectual standpoint, a version of that can happen. I used to think people who continue to work with a therapist or somebody else, that those people aren't good and they just want your money. Some may not be good, like any service that's out there. There are videographers, there are editors, there are writers, there are YouTubers, there are everybody on the planet in every category there is known to man, who are great, who are not so great, and who are somewhere in between, right? But here's what I've realized about doing the inner work is it's just like taking a shower. It's just like sleeping, and it's just like eating. There is no amount of food that I can consume in a day, a week, or a month where I will not need to consume food again. There is no amount of sleeping that I can do in a day, a week, or a month where I will not need to get sleep again, right? There is no amount of showering, although god dang, at times I sure the hell wish there was. I get ideas in that shower, but I'll tell you what, I wish I could just stay clean and smelling rosy magical, a rosy magical. I know, smelling all sorts of good, and not have to take a shower, right? And not have to sleep, right? And not have to eat. Like, I like going out to eat, like semi little social reasons, but like if I didn't have to eat, sleep, or take a shower, that'd be fantastic. I would not complain. But they have to be done, right? Or else I'm gonna start stinking. I'm gonna start feeling like shit for the sleep and the lack of eating, and I'm gonna die. That's probably what's gonna happen too. If I don't eat and I don't sleep, I don't know which one will do it to first, maybe the shower, but like if you don't do those things, bad things will happen. So what I found is that at times I thought I'm good. Like I get help with a coach or get help with somebody, and I'm like, I'm firing at all cylinders again. I'm feeling amazing. And then what happens? I go repeat the patterns. The biggest area of my life this has happened is food. And I call it getting your result through deprivation. I like phrases and different ways of saying this, but this one I don't have is clever yet. But like, I know how to lose. I could lose 10 or 15 pounds in the next 30, 60 days, no problem. Now, some people are like, oh, jealous and this and that, but like, I know exactly what to do. And typically the best way for me to do it is through deprivation. All the things that I love to eat, I won't eat. So rather than just eat less of it, I just don't eat it at all, right? So I don't eat breads. I don't eat ice cream. I don't have pastas. I don't have carbs. And I'll probably just eat less, right? If I do that, then I don't have to go and like super work out and do all these things. The weight just comes off. And all of a sudden the scale goes down, right? And then what happens, because I'm depriving myself of things I really enjoy, is I get to the result and I'm like, I can have some ice cream again. I can have some bread. I can have some pastas. I can do this. And then what happens? Slowly but surely over the next 3 to 6 months, I gain that 10, 15 pounds back, right? And so, and then I reach a weight. I have a weight that says this is enough. Whatever that number is, it's changed over time here and there, but like you hit that and then you go, no more. And then I go with that same behavior, deprivation, right? And then I lose the weight and I put it back on. This time I was about to do that same damn thing again. And then I thought, no, I'm not doing it. Yes, I'm a little bit above the weight I'd like to be, but here's what I can do. Do my best to practice a version of moderation rather than deprivation, right? One of my big phrases recently has been consistency over intensity. And at times I can be intense. But my biggest behavior that's been a positive in my life is being extremely intense about doing things. That comes with its positives. But I have tended to see in my life it also has negatives. And those negatives overall outweigh the positive outcomes from being really intense, right? And so it would be like, okay, I'm going to get on at 9 o'clock every day, Monday through Sunday, and I'm just going to go off on something. I got plenty of things to talk about, right? Well, because of the way I want to live my life and other variations, like, I'm probably not going to stick to that. I'm not going to do that, right? Because there's not that many things that I want to do at exact times and exact days and exact things every single day of my life. You know, my wife and I, we go to bed between 8:30 and 10:30 every day. Those are where we're at probably 99.9% of the time. Really, if you narrow it down even more, it's probably 9:30 to 10, right? That's one of the main things that, and when I get up, it's probably the two things that are most consistent in our life. Otherwise, there's a lot of other things that are kind of, random. Yeah, so that's one of my things. Intensity over consistency, moderation versus deprivation, right? I don't want to deprive myself to get a result. If I deprive myself and don't like the process to get there, guess what I'll do when I get there? Go back to the behaviors that kept me from getting it to begin with, right? So if you got a better way, but you won't do it, it won't work. So do the way that you'll work, because then it'll work. It might be slower, but at least you'll get there, right? And these are things that I'm telling myself. Everything I've said in this thing today are more for me as much as it is for anybody who may be listening. And that's one of the things of playing around with this method again, is sometimes I find that it's very healing to express myself. But I express myself most to my private clients and, my wife and whatnot. But at the same time, I know that there's been benefit. I know that there was people that listened to this today, and it was good. It was a good exercise to get on here and to do this today, right? And that phrase coming out of it was probably the best thing that's happened today between the things I did. Also going back to nothing's a waste, right? It's not about winning or losing. It's winning or learning. And so to what degree can you do things and learn and tweak and make adjustments, right? And continue to refine what's going to work best for you. Because when it specifically comes to business, because that's one of the areas that I help people with really the most, is their business, and specifically even, video business owners. But when you're all over the place and you're showing up super inconsistent, it's really hard to grow a business. It's really hard to grow a business. So if you can't find ways of doing things that you'll be able to do fairly regularly, fairly consistently, then you're going to really struggle. And so anywho, rock and roll, my friends. I appreciate you all so much, and I hope you found that helpful. I hope you found that valuable. You can go check out a few of the posts I've posted recently, but felt good to get on here today. So rock and roll, my friends. See you. Bye.